Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Soulful Hunter podcast. I'm your host, Johnny Mack. Through this podcast, I'm on a mission to transform lives through primal adventure and to spread my mission of mentorship as conservation. This podcast is powered by Washington Backcountry, a resource for all hunters, both new and old. To find out more about Washington Backcountry, go to wabackcountry.com or search for Washington Backcountry on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. This podcast is also proudly presented by T&K Hunting Gear. If you haven't heard about T&K, then it's about time you do, everyone. I've been using T&K gear out in the field and on hunts and have absolutely fallen in love with their stuff. T&K is veteran-owned and 100% made in America, using only American-made products. All their gear is covered under a lifetime warranty with no questions asked. If it breaks or fails, they will fix or replace it for free. T&K is your resource for bino harnesses, bow slings, and a lot more amazing gear. For more information about T&K hunting gear, go to their website at hunting.com. That's TANDK hunting.com. Or you can find them on Facebook and Instagram. Hope you guys enjoy this episode. Don't forget to leave a review from T&K and the Soulful Hunter. Freedom on and stay soulful. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Soulful Hunter podcast. I'm your host, Johnny Mack. Today I got a killer episode for all of you. It is with a good buddy of mine who I met at the Western Hunt Expo. His name's Steve Opat, and he is the podcast host, and he's an outdoor writer. His podcast is called Alaskan Odysseys, and when he's not writing articles and dominating on his written work and his podcast work, he's out saving lives as a med-a-vac. A med-a-vac, what do you call it? A med-a-vac nurse? Or is it just...
Med-a-vac nurse, yeah.
Yeah.
Nurse, med-a-vac nurse, yep.
I love it. Up in the state of Alaska, originally from Minnesota, and he is on a mission to impact lives as well, which is what we're here trying to do. Or not trying, we are doing here at the Soulful Hunter podcast. We got to speak in the affirmative. And Steve, man, thanks for joining us.
Good to be back, but I feel like... as I was thinking about what you said you wanted to talk about, I kind of thought, like, these people are going to get a good show because we're just going to be two buddies talking.
Yeah.
Like we've gotten to that level where I think we're buddies. You have fridge privileges at my house, if you show up, you just let yourself in, take what you need.
I love it. I can open the fridge and grab myself a beverage if I need to.
Yeah.
I dig it. So, all you listeners out there, part of why I wanted to have Steve on this podcast is, number one, to talk about his journey in the outdoors. So he is someone who grew up in Minnesota. He's pursued his passions, and do you live half the time up in Alaska, half your time up there, or how does that work?
Oh, that's a loaded one. That's a big one. Yeah. I'm probably 60-40 this last year.
I love it.
Yeah.
So, okay, before I just start throwing out some information, tell the listeners who you are, where you're from, and then we'll use that as the foundation moving forward.
Yeah, I'm just like your quintessential children's book, small town American kid. Like, town of 2,300 people in Minnesota, where football team is their gods in the fall. People entertain basketball and wrestling in the winter. The baseball team, the track team, like I was a baseball player, and when you're good, everyone talks about you, and when you have bad seasons, nobody cares. and everybody, half the kids in your high school class are obsessed with their trucks, and the other half are just trying to fish and hunt as much as they can.
I love it.
Yeah, and so but I'm okay saying this. I'm the kid in the family that everybody questions whether they were adopted, sometimes even the parents.
I've heard stuff like that before. Not for me personally, but but I've heard some people talk like that.
Yeah, I've kind of always been the why kid, which now I realize is the free thinker. You want to know if you're doing something you want it to be because it's the best way, or the way that helps, the most impactful, not just because it's somebody's way. anyways, I was a Y kid,
Yeah.
and that really means I was just a really inquisitive kid, and there was always some other big thing I wanted to be doing or finding or exploring, and ultimately that place was Alaska. So I manicured a life as an adult when I got out of college that let me get to Alaska, and now that's where I live. And then that journey just kind of kept evolving, and I kind of kept taking the steps, and then I got this job as a med-a-vac nurse. And what that means is basically, in a lot of places, med-a-vac nurse is like the high end, ultimate critical care, life saving stuff. And in Alaska, we do a lot of that, but that's not most of what we do. Most of what we do is just simple, like air ambulance, the stuff that people would normally take an ambulance to get from their town to the hospital. We don't have roads
Right. So they got
connecting those towns to the hospital. So they send people like me to fly out and get them. So most of what I do, I'm completely over prepared and overeducated for. Um, but we get to do a lot of flying around the state and hang out with some cool people. So it's a cool gig.
I dig it. I recently put up on the Soulful Hunters podcast IG story. I had a question like, what things, what topics do you want to hear about? One of the questions that came up was people want to know about backcountry first aid. So
Okay.
before we get into some other topics and kind of one of the main reasons why I really wanted to have you on this podcast, can you address a little bit about backcountry first aid? What is it that you believe people should carry with them? What do you carry for yourself? And just I don't know, kind of necessities.
Yeah, that's great. The first thing I will say is uh, something that'll lead into maybe where our next conversation will go, and that is check out Western Hunter magazine, because in the spring they did an episode or an issue on survival, and I wrote an article for that. So that's a good place to get a bunch of information. And just subscribe to Western Hunter, and I'm kind of writing for them every other month. So, but I say that because this idea is primed. I've already distilled the information I want to teach. I just really got to read that article aloud to you, and we got it right. But
Right.
the big thing is um, understanding this. You can survive 3 months food. What is it? 3 months without food, or 3 weeks without food, 3 days without water, and like 3 minutes without oxygen. So you frame that in your mind. Like you can only go 3 minutes without oxygen. You can only go 3 days without water. Three,
I think it's 3 weeks.
3 weeks without, yeah. Um, and shelter is another one. Like you can't be exposed to the elements. So
Right.
I wish I had that concisely memorized, but it doesn't matter because your first aid is really just like those first two segments of that. The first one, like you can't survive without oxygen to your cells. And I say cells because it's important to know, like, you have to get oxygen to what makes you tick, to the cells in your body. So it's not just that your heart has to be pumping and your lungs working. That's one major component to it, right? You got to oxygenate the blood that's coming into your body. But the other part is you have to actually have blood in your body to
To
carry that
oxygenate.
oxygen to the cells. Okay. So you see what you saw. I could see your face because I could see you, but I could see the aha thing of like, where's this guy going? Like, oh, I get what he's saying. So we are teaching in emergency medicine now a course called Stop the Bleed,
Yep.
which will save as many lives or more than CPR, because people were rushing to do CPR during trauma and stuff like that. And meanwhile, some guy's bleeding out from his leg. And it doesn't do you any good to put oxygen
They're
into the
just
body and
right.
it's just leaking out the leg.
They're just taking that heart and pushing it harder and squirting blood out even more.
Yeah, totally. So what do you got to know? I mean, CPR, first aid, that's absolutely a great thing. I don't want to tell anybody to do it. I'm telling everybody to do it. But the big thing for for us who are like backcountry, we're gadget people, we're skill and craft people, is like the art of the tourniquet.
Mm.
The tourniquet saved more lives than like any medical device out there.
So in one of my, I'm a believer that everyone should be first aid certified. Just like a driver's license, you should be first aid certified and have taken a course at some point if we truly care about humanity and want to save lives. Now, that's another topic, but I was going through a refresher CPR course back in, man, I think it was probably February, January this year.
Okay.
And the instructor, who was a fellow football coach that I've been coaching with for a long time, and he was talking about his brother was in Europe at the time, and he was skiing, and his ski popped off. The ski edge cut his arm, and he couldn't stop the bleed. And they tried using a belt, which is so common. People were like, "Oh, you got a belt, you're good to go with a tourniquet." He actually couldn't get it tight enough to stop the bleed, and luckily he had what is it, the ski patrol come and use a real tourniquet on his arm, and they stopped the bleed, which therefore saved his life and his arm, because which I want you to address is the importance of like writing the time on which you stop the bleed and all that.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think the biggest thing is we're all really good. One thing we're probably like the average podcast listener is really great at, like that you are a podcast listener, I can deduce that you're probably also great at falling down the YouTube rabbit hole. So
Right.
just like spend 10 minutes YouTubing tourniquets, because where you apply them matters.
Your phone's
You need,
going cuckoo, man. I love it. All
yeah,
the
sorry. I have it on do not disturb. I'm sorry. I
hey,
know.
all good.
Um, so the reason it matters is you have to be able to take an artery which is under pressure and squeeze it shut. And to do that, just again, like you need to have something to squeeze it shut against. So where it matters is pertinent. You got to be able to compress that artery against the bone beneath it. Um, and anything you put over the top of that, muscle, fat, skin, your jacket, your puffy clothes, whatever, is all just stuff that also has to compress in order to get it. So sometimes like a tourniquet needs to go on the skin and in the right spot above the wound. And if one doesn't work, put on another one. Um, and yeah, well, one of the reasons a belt might not work is it's hard to get them tight enough. And what a good tourniquet has is called a windlass, and it can be anything, but it's just something that you twist to take out all the slack in it and tighten that sucker down, and then put it in place. And then if you can write what time it goes on, that's great. But I mean, those are style points at that point. We figure, like, that's my job really. Like when I show up for somebody, we figure it out. And let me tell you, like a lot of things in emergency medicine are not really concise. Like roundabout time is pretty good, unless it's a stroke. Those you want exact times.
There you go. Well, that's good to know. Okay, so you covered a little bit about this. Let's move in and transition into you writing for Western Huntsman. You've been a med-a-vac. How many years have you been a med-a-vac nurse?
I've done med-a-vac for 4 years, 4.5 years now, and I've been a nurse for 15.
Was that the passion that you had that drove you, like, to do this, and like that was your end goal for a career?
No, you know exactly what you're getting out of that question. No, honestly, I've been lost since I was 14 on what I really want to be when I grow up. And I just, it's interesting as I'm just discovering this now. I just always can routes that have given me options. So if I'm tying that, if I'm saying that I went into nursing because I didn't know whether I wanted to be a doctor or a PA or something totally different, but I knew that I would have a good background in science and I would have a job that would pay off my student debt, and I wouldn't be, hamstrung by that, by having to take a job that just pays money because I have to pay off debt. So nursing was a really good option for me. And what I'm thinking about that now is it's funny how one of the biggest things that I preach in my backcountry preparation and was like so much of what I talked about in that article with tourniquets is everything you carry with you in the backcountry should have multiple purposes.
Mm-hmm.
So like a dedicated tourniquet is great, but if you learn how to use a shoelace, a backpack strap, a rifle sling, um,
Paracord,
your computer, your phone charger, like their paracord, like you can make a tourniquet out of about anything, which means you always have them with you. And that's kind of this key to like my hunting success is like I've tried to pare everything down to its basic components. So like I'm not fancy, but I always have what I need with me because I just fashion it or you repurpose something or something has multiple purposes. So anyways, my career has really given me multiple purposes as a nurse, and med-a-vac is great because I just instead of having to work in the ER and check 50 patients in a day, I do like 2.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Um, so I don't know, man. Where do you want me to go with that?
Well,
How can I serve you?
let's divulge a little bit more into this. So here you are. You have really picked up a passion for the outdoors. Have you always been a hunter? You always been a hunter fisherman?
Absolutely.
Okay, so you're
Absolutely.
Okay, so here you are getting more involved. You're working in Alaska. You realize how much like the public lands and just the wildlife, all that's just impacting you as a person, and you find some passion in writing. Is it, we've talked about off recording about you looking at transferring careers and switching careers and going full time into the outdoor world, I guess is really what it is, and trying to find your passion and purpose through whatever that can provide. Is this something that you're willing to leave med-a-vac nursing for because the outdoors and hunting and fishing lifestyle has just captivated you so much and you feel like a calling upon your own soul and you're looking at chasing this? Or because with the podcast that I do and with Washington Backcountry, I love being a school teacher. I love impacting lives. I love loving on people. But at the end of the day, I never got into teaching because I wanted to be a teacher. It was more something I followed in the footsteps of my father. I kind of did it because he did it. I watched Black Hawk Down, and all I wanted to do was be an Army Ranger, jump out of helicopters, be surrounded. Like that was what I wanted to do. But I was a football player. I talked with your buddy Todd about this, and I ended up choosing football and going to college and then getting a degree because when you're there, you got to get a degree, and ended up being a teacher because that's what my dad did. And he was a football coach. And so I was like, well, I'll try that out. And totally like was living a life that wasn't what I wanted. It's, it's had its great moments and it's led me to where I am now. But at the same time, like, dude, if I could talk hunting and fishing and the outdoors and loving people and conservation and all this stuff and get paid enough to do it full time, talk about heaven on earth. Like for me, that is like, dude, you want to talk hunting? Oh yeah, man. You want to talk about transforming lives through primal adventure? You want to talk about mentorship as conservation and hooking the heart and really getting people fired up to not only protect the outdoors and protect wildlife and protect the Second Amendment and rights and all this stuff, but yeah, let's go, baby. United, we are stronger. Divided, we fall. And here we are having this conversation. So, so where do you lie with that? What's your? I,
Well,
that was a big question, I guess. Huh?
that was a big kahuna. Yeah. Uh, where I sit with that right now is in a 20-foot diameter yurt in Fairbanks, Alaska, on 15 acres of property. And I mean, my bed is made out of a couple cots with some plywood over the top and some scrapped up foam. And one of the blankets that I found to put on it looks like a giant baby blanket. But the point of that is like, I feel the start of that show is like, Jesus, this guy probably sounds like he's rich. I'm not. Like I'm sleeping on a freaking, like, it may as well be a car bed that I got at a garage sale.
Right.
Um, I'm scrappy because I've just been different, and I've always prioritized um what I learned to say now, and I couldn't put words to it when I was younger, is I've learned to prioritize my values. And so really when I was asking why as a kid was like, why do you want me to do this? And really what I was asking was, you can, I got my hand up. You can ask those 5 questions and put a different emphasis on each different word, and it totally changes the connotation of it. Like,
Oh yeah.
why do you want me to do this?
Yep.
Why do you want me to do this? Why do you want me to do this? Right? Why do you want me to do this?
Oh yeah, I've
And
gone
I was
through this
doing that shit when
conversation
I was
before with my brother. We totally the power of words, man.
yeah,
When you put the emphasis on a different syllable, all of a sudden it changes the word, right?
everything.
The
Yeah,
oh,
it
you mean the
changes the whole paradigm
syllable?
of the conversation. Yeah,
Yeah, no, totally.
emphasis is so important. So, man, I think when you told me you wanted to talk about this, I was like, man, this is huge. And what I really like about it is that we just get to be really real. I think so many people expect, like, they come to podcasts for information. They're seeking, there's a question on their mind, and they want to find data or answers or research to give them an answer. And like, man, the first thing that came to my mind was like, I gotta tell people, I don't have an answer. I have not cracked the code. I am living it. I am just one of you people, like,
Yeah.
one of you people. We've probably got to be careful using that.
Let
For,
Let me jump in here real quick. I had a guy who is a Midwesterner from the Midwest. He might actually be from Minnesota, maybe Wisconsin. I think it is. He moved out here to the Pacific Northwest, wanted to learn Western style hunting. I've talked with him, chatted with him multiple times, and he was like, "Hey, man, I want to break into the outdoor industry. I want to, you know, make my mark, create my mark, leave my mark, whatever it is." His day job isn't fulfilling to a point in which it keeps him there. So he's like, I want to do this. He's like, how did you do it? And I'm like, dude, I'm not doing it other than I'm just creating each thing day by day. And you can't outgive good. And at the end of the day, do what you want. And when you start doing what you want, you start getting the things that you want, but you have to know what it is that you want first, and it's super important.
yeah, I worked with a coach this last year, a performance coach, and one of the first things we do is you do this exercise about values, and I've talked about it on other podcasts before, but you get all these, the whole list of values, and just what could be, and you just go through and circle them and just distill it down to, like, what is important to you. And so I do it every 3 months or so, and I know, like, my values are growth, challenge, health, nature, and, like, honesty, and some variation of one of those 5 words. And so now I know, having done that exercise, like, when I choose a path, it has to serve those values. And really, you kept using the word impact, and I just, like, I wrote it down because I wanted to make sure I always came back to that. Like, I feel this draw to, like, to leave an impact, and the biggest place that I want to leave an impact is directly on the earth. I want to take care of the earth. In my daily actions, I want to be in a position where I'm taking care of the earth, because I know, like, it has given me so much.
Hmm.
And one of the ways that I know that I need to do that, I need to leverage my strengths to impact people to take care of the earth.
Yeah, be a leader.
And so, like, hunting is the dream way to do that. I mean, I don't think anybody has really gone outside and had a big breath of fresh air and not been better for it.
Yep, amen to that. That's a true
Uh,
statement.
so so I just, that's my opinion. People could challenge me and say that I'm preaching, I'm preaching my religion on somebody, but, like, man, I try hard every day to find ways that, like, time and time in nature is not healthy for somebody, and I just can't find it.
Well, being a nurse, I'm sure you've come across the studies that they've done, and I can't specifically reference what medical journals or what even the title of the articles are, but there, and we've talked about this on this podcast before, where there are actual medical studies where you take the same, uh, take two people with the same ailment, put them in a hospital room. One room has a window that looks upon a parking lot, and one room has a window that looks upon a park with grass and trees and nature. The person who has the room that looks upon nature heals much quicker.
Wow.
And that is a scientific study that's been proven. So nature has the power to heal. And so here I am listening to you talk about you want to impact people through the importance of nature, man. I had like, I'm on board. Keep preaching.
Yeah.
Let like,
Yeah. So what's great, this commonality we have, and I think it's one that a lot of people can relate, tons of people can relate to, like we have these equal pathways. We're like, all right, what do you do? Well, you follow the role models that you have and respect, because that's they help you get rid of fear, and they just help you, serve you to get you a little bit closer to your next fear points. And so you went into teaching, and what we all know about teaching is like it is secure. It is there's jobs,
yeah,
there's benefits, there's health
it's a
insurance, there's
safe,
paychecks.
it's a safe job.
It's safe job, right?
Yep.
And so I went into nursing for the same thing, and now where we're at on this part is like, I don't know, you don't know that podcasting is uh the answer, the last thing that you'll ever do. In fact, I know that podcasting and writing is not the last thing I'll ever do. But I know that nursing is not what I'm supposed to do. Well, the current line of nursing is not what I'm supposed to do for life. I can feel that. That's why I said, like, this struggle is real.
Yeah.
I can feel that there's a timeline on it, and I'm balancing between, like, do I double down on it and try to, like, reinvigorate the marriage, like relight the spark,
Right.
right? Make it sexy again, or do I like divorce from it and go to where I'll be truly happy and take a big painful loss in the meantime? And that's hard, man. It's hard to leave that security and that comfort. But here's my path with it is I got into med-a-vac nursing the full time. I mean, I was working like 10 to 12 24-hour shifts a month. Um and then I got to this point where I was just like, I was losing touch with my friends because I had no rhythm to my schedule. I'd work Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday, Wednesday. Like there was just I say, like, my circadian rhythm looked like ventricular fibrillation. And sometimes I'd fly all night, so my next off day I'd be asleep because I had to get caught up on sleep and I'd feel hungover. And so after 3 years of that, I told my company, like, I got to make a change. Like, I'm losing friends. Like, I'm making a shit ton of money, but I'm not
You're not
I'm
happy.
not happy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm ill. I'm ill. So I switched and I went to part time because I was finding that we were just big enough that there was always somebody calling in sick or going on maternity leave or getting fired.
Uh-huh.
But we weren't big enough that we had like full time people to like plug those holes. So I
Right.
said, here's what I want to do. I don't want a schedule. I want to set my own schedule. There's sick calls every day. I'll just be your guy who just fills them on the days I can work.
You're a full-time substitute. But in the
That's what I was
in the
doing. Yeah.
teaching realm, there
Yeah.
some districts hire full-time substitutes so that they're the person that always plugs the holes. Yeah, totally get it.
That's good to know because now I've incorporated teachers and nurses. I feel like we've got like 35% of the United States workforce can identify with what we're talking about right now.
Yep.
And after a while, that typical American world, like their management people couldn't figure out a way to make that work to make everybody happy. Uh, Affordable Care Act things and whatever else. They didn't want to give me benefits considering I was a part-time employee. And I said, well, why don't you just give me benefits and I'll be a full-time substitute? They didn't see it that way. I went on to a new company and I negotiated a thing of, rather than working 8 scattered shifts, I work a week straight or 2 weeks straight,
Yeah.
24 hours on for a week or two. And I thought, like, this will be great. I'll work a week a month, and then I'll have 3 weeks to write and podcast. And so the point I'm getting at is, like, everything we've created seems to kind of be the next, like, it seems to be the sure thing.
Yeah.
Like, I've got to figure it out now. I'm going to do it. And every time I've done it, I've found the next detriment to it, of like, this seemed like the best idea, but what I did not foresee was this.
Yeah.
And for me, I just am really having a hard time, like, engaging. Where the nature of the work is such that, like, many of the people we transport require zero thought processing. So I find myself riding airplanes, because we're trained to take care of those catastrophes, utter disasters. And so when you get somebody who literally just needs a ride to the hospital, it's like, you woke me up at 2 a.m.
Just so
to
you
get
could.
on a plane
Yeah.
and do this. Yeah, you call, we haul. I don't get to say anything. And now I'm just this point where, like, I see all these things that you are doing, Johnny. Like, you're a big influence on me. Like, I see
I appreciate
what
that.
you can do when you can wake up in the morning, put your boots on, put your butt in the seat, and just, like, be creative, be in your space, and get it out there. And, like, the lack of a rhythm is frustrating me, because what I want is to have an impact.
Yeah.
And what I'm realizing now in my med-a-vac world is, like, I just don't really get much of an opportunity to create an impact in many people's lives. And so really, all along, nursing was just a place that I could impact people. And I feel like I can get that, serve my values that way, by writing books, by writing articles, by being a podcast host, by physically just having 5 nights a week available to, like, take a Boy Scout troop on, and,
Yeah.
give back to Boy Scouts, or to coach, to mentor. That's so huge. And so that is what I'm looking for. And that is what I'm really just asking people to think about, what impact their values really want them to serve in this world.
Okay, so I love this. This is a fun conversation for me. So I did a leadership training. Well, it was a little over a year ago, and we had to sit down. They tried to create awkwardness for people, and people always shy away from awkwardness. Oh, that was
Okay.
awkward. I don't feel comfortable. I'm not going to do this. So what they did is we had a chosen partner, and it could be opposite sex, could be male to male, female to male, whatever it is. People from all over the United States flew to San Diego, paid for this, to be put in awkward situations. Here I am sitting. We were supposed to sit almost like toe to toe, knee to knee. Like, we're that close to people and our partner, and we're leaning in, and they say, "What do you want?" And we have to respond. And then whatever we respond with, they say, "Okay, so what do you want?" And then we respond, and then, "Okay, so what do you want?" So they're in there. You're supposed to keep eye contact this entire time. Makes people super nervous. Well, the point of this is that if you go to your average person, and I'm not even saying American, I'm just saying average person, and you said, "What do you want?" They couldn't answer it. People don't know what they want. People don't understand that inward reflection leads to outward correction, and that if you want the best life, you have to then look within yourself, figure it out what you want, and then when you know what you want, you can go out and get it. Stephen Covey's book of highly successful people and the habits of, I forget the exact title of the book, but it
7
says,
habits.
yeah, 7 habits. Begin with the end in mind, right?
Yeah.
You can't hit a target if you don't know what your target is. So for those of you every single day who are waking up and being like, well, I guess I'm going to go to work and I'm going to drink coffee, read the newspaper, and do my job, and then come home and crack a beer and mow the lawn and say hello to the wife and kids. And, like, okay, if that's what you want, awesome. But if you don't actually know what you want, then you're not living your life to the absolute fullest like it was meant to be. We are made to be creators. If we are made, now, whether you believe in God or not, if we are made in the image of God, God is a creator, and therefore we also are creators. create your existence, create your life, create your job, do whatever it is, but you got to know what you want. I know that I don't always want to be a public education teacher. I know that I have a mission and I want to spread it. So by knowing that, I therefore go through steps. Maybe it's a little bit here, a little bit there. Um, I had a guest on my podcast, Ryan Munsey, who wrote the book "No F's Given," and the point of his book, or one of the points, is he's always talking about football analogy. He's a big sports guy. He's like, you got to always be moving the chains. You get 4 downs to get a first down, and then keep going. But you need to be aware that it doesn't matter. You don't have to score a touchdown every single day. You don't have to make a big play every single day. But as long as you are moving your chains towards your goals, you're making progress, and you're going to just be happier. I love looking at the progress and the growth that I've made as a human and looking back at it and be like, wow, dude, I didn't settle. I'm not worse off. I'm not unhappy. Waking up and doing the things that I want to do help me live a more fulfilling and a successful life. Because success gets measured based off of what it is that you want. Are you achieving it? Are you working towards it? And go from there. So I think a lot of people, especially nowadays with like social media, want to know how to break into the hunting world. It used to be like either you're a professional hunter or you had a ranch or you just had some connections. A lot of people want to stop doing what they're doing because they're unhappy. At least I've had these conversations with people and they want to know how to do it. And it's like, dude, you just do it. Literally just you make up your mind, but it starts with what you were saying. You got to know your values. You got to know what you want. And when you do that, everything else gets in order.
So I know where I want to take this. Um, and it's understanding. I think like people in our age. You're how old?
I
Am I
am
saying
36.
36? So we're like the same age. A buddy once told me that like our very age group is very sought after in like the corporate America, the high tech world, because we didn't grow up with technology. It came at us as we grew,
Right.
so we always learned it. So we were just like, whoa, what is this Nintendo thing? And right when you get it figured out, you're like, whoa, what is this Sega Genesis thing? Right? Like, whoa, buy Sega PlayStation, you know?
Yep.
And now we're like walking around in virtual reality. But that's the point of that is we can also see both sides of where we at. And if you look at American history, you have these different revolutions and different eras where all of a sudden, like, holy cow, this is the thing, the Enlightenment. Like, whoa, we can feed ourselves to the point now we can just like think and explore our brains and have this advanced like psychology and whatever. And then you have like the Industrial Revolution. And you're like, holy cow, we can make complex machines that really do some incredible stuff and make a lot of them and get them into the hands of everybody. And so before that, like information, before the World Wide Web, information was almost like a secret society thing.
Mm.
That's like the Freemasons are this network of people who like they share the secret, share knowledge. And now what our generation learned was that if you want to learn something, you just have to go find it. Whereas before, it was like you had to hope that your dad knew it in order to like introduce you to it or knew somebody who knew it. It was only really as good as your network, your personal network,
Right.
learning something. Um, and so now we have this great ability where like if you want a mentor in whatever it is that you feel like you want to do, you can get that. You can have it.
Yep.
And and you can have it in excess. You can have as much of it as you want. And I think I mean that's kind of the end of that. Like one of the things I've been pondering or contemplating a lot, and this is a lot of my adult growth, is like I really held some angst against my parents for a while because um they raised 3 kids and they kind of parented us all the same, and I was very challenging. Uh, and I am still very challenging because I just think differently. Like you can call me weird. I don't know. I just think differently, and I explore things, and I want to know. And what I can forgive them now is just knowing that like they came up in a time when like there weren't a whole shit ton of books and dedicated podcasts to just like how to raise the kid who asks why too much.
Hmm.
They didn't have the resources to like learn how to deal with me. And if you look at them, like they worked so hard to give us all what we had. And it was like with the resources they had, they maximized them, optimized them. They used every bit of bandwidth they have to take those resources and give their kids the best option. And so now, with us as mentors, as leaders, whatever you want to call it, like we have these resources to really analyze what it is somebody wants, needs, and give them the specific thing for it. So I really encourage people to like to network, to use your resources, to find out what it is about you. And like your podcast would have never been popular in 1930, 40, 50, 60, or 70 because there was no way to get it into just the people who wanted it.
Right.
You had radio, you know? So
Yep.
radio is just this generic thing. You have morning talk shows and pop music. But now with podcasts, when you can find exactly what he wants, a guy like Johnny Mack suddenly has this opportunity to go and serve this very like niche population and do it so well because he can be found. People can search and find him, and you can mentor in exactly the field that you want to do. And so I don't know, use the resources you have available to you, but like go looking, find the people who are experts in what you want to do. And like, there's your opportunity to grow and make an impact.
I love it. So one of the questions that I've
That was a
asked,
rant. You
yeah.
don't have to like that. That was a rant. That was a.
One of the questions that I've received personally, but then also I've wanted to know is how does somebody break into all of a sudden being a writer for magazines? How do you get published? How do you go through the steps of sharing knowledge and then getting into a publication such as you are writing for the Western Hunter and you have some other cool opportunities coming as well. Was it something that were you always a writer? Did you study uh English in school? Like what was it that all of a sudden you're like, "Hey, I can do this and this is now what I want to do."
Well, so the nudge for me was that I actually quit nursing for a year and went trying to find something else that I wanted to do. I tried to get into PA school. I interviewed, didn't get in. In the day that I like got my rejection letter or something, an outfitter from Alaska called me and wanted to know if I would run his hunting camp for the winter down in Texas to guide pigs. And I was like, well, I'm between jobs. Like, it's not going to cost me anything to do it. So I'll come out of it with a tip money at least and a little bit like, yeah, sure, I'll do it. It was fun and it taught me a valuable lesson. But in there, I was trying to find clients and I started calling anybody I knew who had time or money to come hunting and shoot pigs. And I called up a guy from my hometown who was an outdoor writer. And I said, I'm calling you not because I want your outdoor connections. I'm calling because I know you prioritize your time around hunting and it's January or February and there's no whitetail hunt. So you probably have time to drive down to Texas and do this. But in the process of him saying yes, I got to hunt with him for a week and just pick his brain about this outdoor writing thing. And he basically like he just told me like you can do this. um so after he left I sent him some writing samples and was like, you're not a bad enough writer that you can't, like, you should do this, you can do this, write up a story and I'll get it published. We'll get it published, I'll help you through it. So he helped me, interestingly, like he helped me get that published. But the takeaway to give to your listeners, if you want to break into the hunting world, is like start with what you read. Start with what is a good. I use the word congruent. That just means like these are your people. So Western Hunter, I know them. I got to know them through all the shows. and build a relationship with them. And they came to me and said, "Hey, we would like this article. You'd be a great one." That was that opportunity. But man, the first article I wrote, I didn't get paid for. But like, I was so happy about it. Like, you know,
Heck yeah.
I didn't know how to negotiate the deal, and most of the time you're not gonna until you have a name for yourself. Like, you're not gonna get paid. But you just write for fun. You write to like get it out of you and to share it. And your first article, you'll probably have a load of emotion in it because you won't be trying to do anything fancy. You'll just write. So the answer is there's three things. You got to know that there's word counts. Word counts are real. Make life really easy for an editor. So a feature article is like 2,000 words. If you've never written one, never got it before, don't make it over 2,000 words.
Yeah.
Because you're not good enough to get the space for them to dedicate 6 pages of their magazine to you. So make it less than 2,000 words. So it's very easy for the editor to like plug it into their template and generate a story out of it. So it's either 1,000 words, 1,500 words, or 2,000. But like, I'll just say, don't go over those. Don't get fancy. Just write it. Like, you don't have to give this like 1-page exposition on the elegant flowing sunset, lustrously shining over the glistening. Like, people don't talk like that. Just talk like you write. Just tell the story.
But don't write like you talk. That will
Yes.
that is
Thank
a
you.
key to remember is the way that people communicate through words, spoken word, is not how you would want to write your paper.
I'll give you some personal freaking preferences. One, you are not sponsored. You're not going to get sponsored out of your first articles. I don't care that you have a Swarovski VX5, X2, and this color and pattern and whatever else. Like, Swarovski's not going to sponsor you. It's irrelevant information. So don't do product pumps in your stories,
Yeah.
please. Two, this is just me being like the weirdo. Like, the I came, I saw, I killed story has been written so many times. Like, I want to know what's unique, man. I want to know how you grew. Like, I want to love the character. That's why you watch TV, you know?
Yeah.
That's why you like love movies and stuff, is because as a writer, I'm learning like we develop character. So like develop your character, like show us how you grew through the
What
course of the story.
what sets you apart? What makes you uh, special? Not that you're not special. However, what will make a name for yourself within the industry that you want to get into? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, totally. Honestly, anymore, the Came I Saw I Killed and hunting shows and with rich people have been so overdone that like if you have a name for the animal that you shot, I probably don't give a rip about it. If you shot Jester or Ridgebuck or whatever, like I probably don't care. Make it real. Make it just seem real and like you're a real person, and then just write it, and then just network. Start with who you know, what you know. Just write it and share it with them. And if they like you, like they'll give you a little bit of time to say, "Hey, I'll tell you what, you just do this for me, fix this part, and we'll try to get it in like a reader submission." And then you're off to start.
Yeah. I
You
will.
can call me, and like I like editing. I love editing. Like if you're serious about it and you've got one published, you've like made those steps, and you really want to write something, let's work like read something and give you what I know, what I've learned, and
Yeah.
edit your stuff and let you know where to go back to.
Well, here's a piece of advice though. So this is Josh Kirshner, the Dialed In Hunter, who you write for Go Hunt. He's also a Go Hunt writer and all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So and let me digress and actually let me just say two different parts then. First part is Josh. He gave me some advice, or gave me his opinion, and I took it as advice. He said everyone's covered the how tos. Everyone's covered the, the sea came, conquered, killed, like what you were talking about, but no one's ever heard it from you. And so instead of trying to mimic other people's writings, write your story. And this is a common theme within the hunting world is like hunt your hunt. Don't hunt it for somebody else. Do the hunt because you
Ooh,
want to do it.
saucy.
So write your story because you want to write it. Whether or not it's been covered and hit from so many different big names or small names or angles, no one's heard it from you. And this is why it doesn't matter how many other people who are trying it. This is your moment to create your mark and leave your legacy. Now, with that being said, I also got connected with Josh Kirchner because I had courage enough to reach out to people. And one of the people who I reached out to on social media ended up being who I did not know at the time. This was one of the wildest, smallest worlds. I ended up reaching out to Andrew McKeon, who used to be the former editor in chief of Outdoor Life magazine. And
Oh,
now,
really?
now him and I chat all the time, and it all because I had questions and I sought after knowledge. I sought after these answers, and it led me to now I have a great relationship with him. And he's like, "Yeah, I want you to come to Montana this next year and hunt with me, or feel free to come stay at my house." All because I took a leap of faith and I believed in myself. And I think that is so often forgotten and
Fortune
discredit.
favors the brave, man. That's one of my favorite quotes.
Oh yeah,
Fortune favors the brave.
absolutely. Absolutely. So I think that is super important. And for all of you listeners who have ever thought about breaking into the hunting world as like a career or a job, it's not just through writing. You have an idea, share it with the world. Try it out, take feedback, mold it, shape it, change it, keep putting it out there because what you put out there, you're going to get in return and it's just going to continue to build. My wife yesterday, she was like, "Hey, listen, you want to take Washington Backcountry, the Soulful Hunter podcast, you want to do this full time." She goes, "But how much traction over 30 years is mentorship, is conservation going to have down the road?" She's like, "You're going to have to evolve into some different things." And I was like, "Yeah, I'm sure I will. I don't know what that is yet, but unless I live my life and deliver the content like I want to and create the content I want to, I won't even get to that point in which I'll know what that is." And I think so often, uh, fortune favors the brave. You got to take that leap of faith. And well, I always talk about how courage is the first known quality of man. Live with courage. Be brave, man. This is America, home of the brave, land of the free, or land of the free, home of the brave. I said that backwards.
I love it. Either way, it sounds great.
Yeah.
Did you write that?
Oh,
That's great, man.
oh, I freaking dig it. So, but that's the point, man. It's like, and my brother is my hero. If you never heard my brother, he's got a great podcast called The Golden Rule Revolution, where
Really?
you treat people the way you want to be treated, man. So that's the purpose of his podcast. But he always tells me that, oh man, I just totally lost my train of thought. Where were we? I totally spaced out.
Home of the brave, land of the free.
Oh yeah. So he's like, dude, you're never gonna get an answer unless you try. You're never gonna know your worth unless you put it out there. You're never gonna know your value until you take that first step. And he's my hero, and dude, it's like no truer words have ever been spoken.
I know that we're at about 50 minutes and you want to keep it tight, but I'm just gonna I just want to share the story that's really been a real guide for me. And that is the difference between like why hunting has been so pivotal in my overall life and the difference between like hunting and hiking. And the difference between hunting and hiking is that I'm never on a paved trail. I'm always schwacking through the bush to find the route. And if you hike, you mostly hike on trails that have already been paved. And all you have to do is just plod forward. It's the way. You just plod forward. But there's really no figuring out, no problem solving, no wondering how you're going to get to the top. You just follow the fucking trail.
It's
Okay?
mindless.
It's
Yeah.
mindless. Yeah, you just do the thing and get there. Easy. But when you hunt, you suddenly have to pioneer the land. And I think back to this friend of mine, Taylor, and my buddy Matt is my good hunting buddy, and we pioneered this piece of land in South Dakota for antelope, and we got good. We were coming back, filling all of our tags every year, spot and stalking, and we got lean where we're just like, we just knew when animals were in positions that we could kill them, and we just wouldn't even go at them unless they were in a just a like an easy kill spot, and then we would just stalk, belly crawl right in to full range and kill them. Well, then 2 years later, we had this understudy from, he was an underclassman in college while we were seniors, and we brought Taylor along, and Taylor had to find his own territory because Matt and I, this is our turf, you know? It's like,
Yeah.
all right, new kid, here's where we're hunting. You over there find your own. And it was not as good a land. So Taylor was hungry. He had to take what we gave him, you know? We're freaking pighead Midwest boys, jocks. And Taylor would just see a buck and he would start going at it. And Matt and I would see these, and we're like, what's Taylor doing? He's wasting his time. He's never going to get close to that. That thing is like in an unstockable position. Just go find another one. And then Taylor started shooting animals. And the reason was what we would learn when he came back is he's like, yeah, I thought I was going to get to like 150 yards and just hope that this thing walked towards me. And one time it just did. It just got up and walked towards him and closed the distance when it was a desert between them, but it just the thing happened. And another time it was like I didn't know there was just little small rise out there between me and that thing. And once I got out and closed the distance, then I saw this, and then it was easy. And the point of that all being is like sometimes you don't see the way until you are down the path.
Yeah.
You have to get into it. You have to suddenly like let things develop. Just know like I don't need to see how to get to the end. I just need to have faith that if I just start, it will materialize along the way. And that's what I see you doing. Like you've seen the peak. There's no trail to get there. You're just started climbing and you're just going to take the best route at every phase of the mountain, of every phase of the stalk, and you'll get there. So, yeah, mentoring is conservation, and you'll get there.
Yeah. I appreciate that. I want to say this, and I talk with my wife about this a lot. So often, people are only concerned with the how, and this. Let me set this up. I was unhappy teaching. I didn't want to teach. Now I love teaching. I love sharing knowledge. That's what a teacher does. They share knowledge.
Mhm.
I was unhappy in my specific job, and I knew that I loved hunting and I needed to get out. And for the longest time, it's like, how do I do it? How do I get out of this career? How do I switch? The how will take care of itself. The how will take care of itself. Don't worry about the how, because when you have intent, everything else will follow. And so I don't know how I'm going to end up making enough money to replace my teaching job, but I'm not worried about that because as long as I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, which is creating and having fun and living my life, everything else is going to take care of itself.
Did you quit the teaching job?
No, no.
Oh, I thought we had a revelation here.
Well, we do have a revelation, and I have a little bit of a plan now, and and I'm not having this. I'm not saying I have a plan because of the how, but I have a responsibility as a husband and a father to three small children to make sure that things are taken care of. So I think, you know, you have to take into account who you are specifically affecting with all your decisions and go from there. But things are going to happen as long as you are intentful and creating. The how, don't worry about it. I knew that I needed to go to the Western Hunt Expo. I knew that I had a mission to share. I didn't know how that I would do it. All of a sudden, bada bing, bada boom, I'm presenting a seminar. All of a sudden, we meet, and life goes on. And then you look where it takes you. Like you said, you don't know what's on the other side of the door until you open it and walk through it.
Yeah.
You can't just be like, oh well, that goes there, and I don't want to go there. Well, you don't really know. You don't know what the forest is like, what the trail is like. You can't see the next location or destination until you are actually in that moment.
Yep.
I love it.
Beautiful, man. All right, we're at your 1 hour. Let's there's something I want to talk about. Let's take it off air.
I love it. Hey, just real quick, wrapping it up. Your podcast. I want you to plug it. I want you to plug your what you're doing, and how do people find you, get a hold of you if they ask questions? I know that there's going to be a lot of questions about hunting Alaska, and I have my own and all this. So just kind of wrap it up. Be away. Might have to have you on as a guest again to talk specifically about hunting Alaska. Would be a great one. But
Sure. Please have me on a guest. Let's do this. Let's assemble a whole list of people's questions and distill them into something that we can do in a podcast. And we'll do it after the hunting season so people have the full year to plan. And like this, let me tell you this. without being an egotist, like I can get you to Alaska. It is possible. This is the impact that I want to have. I'm not saying that like I'm God's gift to your hunt. No. Like this is what I've done. Like I will help you get to Alaska. It is possible. So just send some questions. My handle is Alaskan Odysseys, ODYSSEYS, Alaskan Odysseys. Keep in mind, this is a creative project for me still. I'm balancing a lot. So it's on that values list. I know where it fits. It's 3 or 4 on my priorities behind relationship, professional career. And so sometimes it gets a whole bunch of energy when the energy's flowing, and sometimes it just gets put in the back burner. So right. I've got a dozen episodes released or more, and I've got 10 that I need to edit and drop in. And I want to talk about mentorship. I want to talk about creating great opportunities for people's first time outdoors. What I want to do is I want to create the situation where like you take somebody outdoors and it sticks.
Yeah.
Because you had the knowledge. You did it right. You didn't make the major mistakes. You made it stick. And we grow more outdoorsmen that way because like I said, I love the outdoors. I love it. And it's given me so much, and like I have to nurture it. And I know that like it'll bear fruit.
Yeah.
It's just like water in the garden, it'll keep feeding me if I can water it. So Alaskan Odysseys is about like life lessons and adventure, about just
beautiful.
And an odyssey, a journey with like in short, it's a long journey whose final destination is different than the original.
Yeah. Yep.
An ever evolving journey. And so it's a pretty fitting name for what we got going on.
I love it. I love it.
Find me.
I love it.
Question.
So there you go, everyone. Go find Steve on Instagram at Alaskan Odysseys. Also, you have a website, right?
Kind
of working on it.
You can find it under the same thing, but there'll be a better one down the line.
There you go. I love it.
Yeah,
I love it. Well, hey, Steve, thank you so much for coming on, talking about breaking into the field in which you want and pursuing passions. I think that's huge. Thanks for sharing your knowledge as far as first aid and med-a-vac nursing and all that. So we'll definitely have you back on for Alaskan episode. Everyone, don't forget to go check out Steve at Alaskan Odysseys on IG. And thank you so much for tuning in and listening. Don't forget to leave a review and a rating. That is what helps spread the word more about the Soulful Hunter podcast. From Johnny Mac and everyone here, freedom on, baby, and stay soulful. Thanks for listening. Have a blessed day. If you enjoyed today's podcast, I'd love it if you could go ahead and give this a rating as well as subscribe. Also, you can check us out on Instagram under the Soulful Hunter Podcast. Make sure to tag us in pictures and posts and use the hashtag Soulful Hunter. To find out more about the Soulful Hunter Podcast, go to soulfulhunter.com and be sure to follow the podcast as we are going to be bringing you a lot of great information, insight, and changing lives through primal adventure. I look forward to connecting with you on the next episode. Stay tuned and stay soulful.